Salam, His Excellencies Mr. Dennis Shelby, the Honorable Chairman, Secretary, and member of the Board of Trustees, Hasanuddin University, the Honorable leaders and members of the Academic Senate, the Honorable leaders and members of the Professors Council, the Honorable Vice Rectors of Hasanuddin University, the Honorable Hasanuddin University Secretary, the Honorable Mr. and Mrs. Dean and Deputy Dean of Hasanuddin University, the Honorable Heads and Secretaries of Hasanuddin University, and of course, students and participants of today's public lecture. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our executive public lecture today is held in collaboration between the European Embassy and Indonesia. Allow me first to read the agenda for today. The first agenda is the opening session, followed by the main session, which is of course the public lecture and will be led by our moderator. And last, closing by the master of ceremony. Now, for a brief moment, we would like to invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to rise and sing the Indonesian anthem, Indonesia Raya. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I kindly invite you all to stand up. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated back down. As the host of this public lecture, the Vice Rector for Academic and Student Affairs will be delivering the welcoming speech. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Professor Dr. Gigi Muhammad Ruslin, MKes PhD, SPBM Consultant.
Thank you. Moderator, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good, this is now not morning anymore, yeah. Good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to His Excellency Mr. Dennis Shelby in Netherlands. I can also call Groot Meneer, the Ambassador of the European Union to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam, the Honorable our Senator members of Hasanuddin University who is attend this event, the Honorable the Professor and the staff of Universitas Hasanuddin, and the Honorable the Deans, the Vice Dean and Director who is come to this event, and the honorable guests special student, the great students of Hasanuddin University who is attend this event, and clap your hand please for the students. Yeah, it's a great honor to welcome His Excellence Mr. Dedis Chaibi at Hasanuddin University and to deliver a lectures entitled European Union Indonesian Partnership Saving the Future Together. Since on April 2022, I propose a tagline of Hasanuddin University is new motto that representing the new era of UNHAS leadership that we call Stronger Together, which is we have just found in European Union Indonesia Cooperation Blue Book. Also, the title is Stronger Together. So from this, I learned that we have similar principle, and we believe that we are stronger if we are together. So over the last decades, the European Union and Indonesia have successful strengthening and broadening the partnership, which is underpinned by common goals, mutual interests, and shared belief. And we expect that this partnership may foster inclusive economic development, promote good governance, protect the environment, and support civil society, and also promote education. Since the European Union and Indonesian partnership has gone from strength to strength over recent years, we are also hoping to deepen our people-to-people engagement and supporting human capital development in Indonesia, particularly in Hasanuddin University, through collaboration in education. So saving the future together is powerful prize, which is represent a long-term goal and the ideal of the stronger connectivity of European Union and Indonesia, and we look forward to make it still stronger till 2024 and beyond. So let us, on behalf of Hasanuddin University, I would like to open this event officially by reciting Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Demikian, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We hope you enjoy this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Gigi Muhammad Ruslin, MKes PhD SPBM Consultant, for your amazing welcoming speech. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to our main agenda, public lecture by our special guest today. All presentation and discussion, including question and answer, will be moderated by our moderator, Mr. Abdul Razak Z. Changara, SIP, MSc, MER. So without further ado, I kindly turn it over to Mr. Abdul Razak.
All right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our public lecture today of Hasanuddin University with the title of European Union, Indonesia Collaboration Shaping the Future Together. Our Honorable Vice Rector for Student and Academic Affairs, Professor Dr. Gigi Muhammad Ruslin. Our Honorable Vice Rector for Partnership, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship, Professor Dr. Adi Maulana. and also our, of course, our prestigious speaker today, His Excellency, Mr. Ambassador Denis Chaibi, as a European Union Ambassador for Indonesia and also Brunei Darussalam. It's an honor today, acting as a moderator, to moderate the session with this title, and we hope this presentation will inspire all of the students and our distinguished guests and participants, and also to engage with the discussion that will be later on to be delivered after the presentation session. So the session will be around 30 minutes for presentation, coming from His Excellency, Mr. Ambassador Denis Chaibi, and around 10 minutes will be given to you as the participants for the Q&A sessions, because the staff before asked me that our ambassador will be having a meeting in our provincial government, right? Okay, without further ado, I will be first introduce our ambassador today. So our ambassador of the European Union to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam, His Excellency Mr. Denis Chaibi. He's a senior diplomat in the European External Action Service, or EEAS, having served in Nicosia, Washington, D.C., and most recently in Colombo as European Union Ambassador to Sri Lanka and the Maldives. He previously worked as a threat expert and as the administrator for the EU's relations with India in the European Commission. He has been a member of Commissioner K. Georgieva's private office and the head of the task force for the GCPOA in the EEAS. In parallel, our ambassador, Mr. Chaibi, taught courses on international relations at the Brussels Free University, Boston University, and Yale University, where he was the EU Fellow in 2003 to 2004. He holds degrees in law, international law, political science, European studies, and a LLM from Cambridge University. That's the profile of our guest lecture today. So without further ado, I give the floor to the Mr. Ambassador, His Excellency Mr. Denis Chaibi.
Terima kasih. Selamat siang. Saya nama Denis Chaibi, Dubes Besar Uni Eropa. Saya senang berada di Makassar pertama kalinya, bersama istri saya Elena dan rekan Shanaz. And unfortunately, I have to go on in English, but next time I'll speak more Indonesia, Bahasa Indonesia. Do we have the presentation or the slides?
Yeah, the slides.
If we have the slides? Okay. I'm not going to bore you with lots of slides. We're going to go very quickly. Please. But basically, what I'm going to do is try in even less than 30 minutes, try to tell you who we are, the European Union, and what we do with Indonesia. Yeah. So a very, very simple structure, much simpler than those slides. This is the general plan, but we're going to be quicker. So the first thing is who we are. So it's very, very difficult to understand what European Union is, because the European Union is not a country. It is not a state. It is a governmental organization, but is not the United Nations. It is something between the United Nations and a state. So it's basically states that decide to put together some decisions, but not everything. So it is very difficult to understand which decisions are taken together and which decisions are taken by each state. And that's why it's a complex issue, and most of the people in Europe define this as a UFO, an unidentified, not flying object, but political object, a UPO instead of UFO. It's an unidentified political object because it's unique. But it is unique in maintaining peace. In Europe, from before Jesus Christ, we had constantly wars. We had wars and wars and wars because we had always a lot of people in a small territory. And those people were fighting wars. And what we found after the World War II was that if we decide together, then we cannot wage war against each other because we are deciding together. You cannot say, oh, you decided this and I'm against, so I wage war. You decided with me. We decided together. And therefore, since 1945, within Europe, within the EU, we haven't had conflict. And this is why, for us, what Russia is doing with Ukraine is so bad, because for the first time, after ex-Yugoslavia, the second time, we have war very close to us. And what we're trying to do is to avoid war. So this is the essence of the EU. And how you translate that into figures is we're about 4 million square kilometers, about the double of Indonesia. We have 447 million inhabitants. We are what we consider rich because we have a high GDP per capita. But what is more important than having a high GDP is that we trade a lot. So we trade in goods. So we buy goods and we sell goods. But also very important, even more than goods, we buy and sell services. Services. We buy and sell services. You know, tourism is a services. So you sell tourism to the tourists of Europe. Europeans are services user, but they're also selling a lot of services like ship, freight, environment. We have a lot of services. So we are, in terms of trade, both in goods and services, a very important player. So why I insist so much on this? It's because what we do starts from the internal market. So we have a market inside where people, goods, services, and money, capital, can flow freely. So anyone within the EU can live in any other country. Anyone can send money to any other country. Anyone can sell or buy goods from any other country. And anyone can buy or sell services from any other country. So it's much more than ASEAN. In ASEAN, there are still lots of restrictions between states, customs, duties, pre-border things. There are borders. Within the EU, there are almost no border. There are almost no borders. So how we decide for that space is we have the European Commission, which is some sort of government. It's some sort of government. You have the coordinating ministers in Indonesia. Well, we have the executive vice president in the commission. And then you have the ministers, we have the commissioners. So it is the same, more or less, but it is very important. It has the exclusive right of initiative. So any law, any regulation can only be proposed by the government, the European Commission. So we have then an upper house and a lower house. The lower house is the European Parliament, which gathers a representative from all over Europe. And then we have the upper house, which has representative from the states. And each state of the EU, so the 27 states, has one vote in the upper house, the council. So we have this system: government, European Commission, lower house, European Parliament, and upper house, the council. I simplify a bit, but it is roughly that. So that's how we decide. And then how we interact with the rest of the world is a bit complicated, because since we are not a state, it is very difficult to have an embassy. An embassy is for a state. So we have what we call a delegation. It is a diplomatic mission. It is like an embassy, but it is called a delegation because we are not a state. And basically, this embassy interacts with Indonesia. So like any ambassador, we present the credential to the president. So I was very proud and honored to meet your president. And then these are the areas of what we do with Indonesia. So I'm coming to the second part of the presentation. What do we do? So the first big thing that we do in all areas is what we call cooperation. So we cooperate with Indonesia. So Mrs. Ibu Shanaz, she does that. She does project and cooperation with Indonesia. So for example, we want to learn how you do, or your civil society organization interact with the government. We want to know how we can see the transportation in the cities to become greener and have more public transportation. Or we want to, for example, help with renovating a hospital. Or we want to help the companies to export from Indonesia. So we do cooperation with all kind of actors of Indonesia, with all ministries, with all organizations. So this is what we do mostly in terms of resources. But what is very important for both Indonesia and EU is the trade aspect. Indonesia is a very rich country in resources, in people, in potential. So Indonesia is one of the fastest economies in the world. For the last 30 years, Indonesia has been at the top of economic growth. Indonesia is an economic miracle. You have come from a low-income country to upper middle income, and the vision for 2045 is that you become a very rich country. And we believe you will be a very important country in terms of trade. But Indonesia is not trading so much compared to its neighbors. So compared to the GDP, Indonesia has a lower share of trade in goods and services and of investment. So comparatively to your GDP, you have lower trade volumes, revenues, and lower investments. And we are the biggest actor of trade compared to our GDP. So we are the ones who have the most trade and investment for GDP. So obviously, we can do things together. So what we are doing together is we're negotiating an agreement to lower the duties and the tariffs for goods that come from Europe to Indonesia and from Indonesia to Europe. And the big advantage that we have is that our market is 447 million people, so bigger than the USA, and it's a rich country, so lots of purchasing power. So for products of Indonesia, we are a fantastic market. And for us Europeans, you are a fantastic market as well, because you are booming economically, you have a young population, you're dynamic, and you are very important in the region. So we are very keen to do more trade and more investment with Indonesia. And so some part of our office help with the negotiations. So we do trade. Another thing for which Indonesia is even more important to the rest of the world is environment. Indonesia is one of the most important countries in the world for environment. There are basically 3 countries that provide fresh air to the rest of the world. It's Brazil, Congo, and Indonesia. You have the biggest forest, and where you are the biggest lung of the earth. So our earth is really, really going into a very, very bad situation. Temperatures are rising, and because temperatures are rising, we are losing a lot of biodiversity, so a lot of different animals, which are very important for illnesses, for reproduction of animals, but also the reproduction of animals has an enormous impact on agriculture. So our earth is going very, very badly. And the countries that have lots of resources obviously want to have more production, more economic growth, but the resources are very important also for the rest of the world. They are the resources of Indonesia, but they are very important for the rest of the world. So what we are trying to find with the EU, where our people, or especially our young people, are very keen to have environmental policies in force. So what we are trying to do is to see how we can help Indonesia manage their resources in a way that is beneficial for the entire world. And it is not easy. We are being attacked by many people because what we are asking is very tough. And we understand it is very tough. And also, it is easier for us to ask this because we are richer. And I totally understand that people who are not as rich say, you make first an effort. And so we are trying to make an effort by financing. So for example, here in Makassar, we want to finance a bus network. We want to finance a bus network so people use less their cars, less traffic jams, and more buses. And we want to do things like that all around the world. So this is what we are trying to do, but it's very, very difficult. And we have a regulation called deforestation regulation, where we try to avoid in Europe importing wood and production of agriculture that comes from deforested land. And this is badly taken. But the impact of this in the economy of Indonesia and other countries is small, but the impact can help the rest of the world in terms of climate change. So that is one area that we are very active, and actually our biggest financing, I should have mentioned, is called a Just Energy Transition Partnership. So in Indonesia, there are lots of coal power plant. So power plant electricity comes from coal. And what we want to do is to finance, make the loans for PLN to buy solar panels, wind, and hydro energy and thermal energy. Geothermal. So geothermal, 50% of the world reserves are here. There's sun all the time. Hydro in Sumatra, the potential is huge. So it is relatively straightforward for Indonesia to have renewable source of energy, in particular for electricity. So we are trying to negotiate that with Indonesia. So there are $20 billion that also USA and Japan, but Germany, Denmark, Norway, Italy, UK, and the EU are offering to Indonesia to try to do that. So this is an important factor. Now, we are also doing, if you see, we are doing human rights dialogue. So it's all about democracy. Indonesia is the strongest democracy in the region by far. And since Reformasi has done very, very well. So we want to see and learn also how Indonesia manages the different minorities, the growth of the Muslim religion, and all that is very interesting for us to learn. So we are very happy to have a dialogue and exchange our experience. We are doing a lot of security. We want to make sure that we understand what is happening in this part of the world, because a lot of our goods, as I said, we buy a lot of goods from the rest of the world, but a lot of goods come from here, from China, from Thailand, from Vietnam, and we need to know that the boats can circulate without too many threats. And there are tensions rising in the south of China Sea. So in security, we are very keen. We are very keen to discuss with ASEAN its role in the ASEAN. Indonesia represents almost 50% of the population of the ASEAN. It is the biggest member state. It has a big influence on its neighbors. So we want to understand better how Indonesia works on that. And we are also doing fisheries, because we are a big buyer of fisheries product of Indonesia, and we need to make sure that all that is done in a sustainable way and also safe way. So basically this is what we do with Indonesia. I don't want to speak too much, but there's one thing I want to show you is we have programs for students in Europe. So there are many students from Indonesia who go to China, who go to the US, who go to Australia, but Europe is often in this top 3, top 4. We have many students who go for then first degree or for masters or for PhDs. And we are very proud of our education system. It is cheaper than the US and it's better value. It has a lot of tradition. And what is nice is our students from all over Europe mix all over Europe. So if you go and study in Amsterdam, you will not be only with Dutch students. You will be with Finnish students, Danish, Spanish. You meet all Europe. In any university, we have a mix, because we have a system called Erasmus. And with this system, you can get a scholarship. So you can get a scholarship from the EU, but obviously it's a very competitive process, but still less competitive than the US. But we have a competitive process for the EU scholarships, but also the member states or the university themselves give scholarship. So here you see more or less 80 Indonesian students, 100 receive from Erasmus, but more than 10 times this receive from member states or universities. So there are good spots. It's really interesting from the study point of view, but it's also interesting from the human point of view, because you meet people from all over. And my experience of university, with all respect for all the professors, is that you learn so much from the other students that, you know, going abroad is a very, very important part of your curriculum. So after this little advertising for EU studies, I'm really looking forward to your questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador Dennis Chaibi, for a very great presentation related to EU-Indonesia collaboration about shaping our future together. And now I open the floor for the Q&A session. Because we have a limited time, I will open for 3 questions. The first 3 questions, please raise your hand. Okay, over there, the guy with the glasses. Yeah, you. Yeah. What's your name, please? Can you stand up? You. Right. Okay, that's the first question. And then please stand up, please. One, and then you, the girl over there. Okay, please stand up. And then one more. The guy with the glasses at the right side. Okay. Okay, we start with the guy on the right side of the room. Okay, please mention your name and then what is your major, and then what batch are you in your department?
May I sit, please? Because I cannot reach the microphone.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's okay.
thank you for the opportunity. So, Mr. Ambassador, it is an honor for us to attend such an important public lecture in here, and I want to ask some of a question regarding the material that you have brought for today. So, but before I want to ask a question, I want to explain a little bit about the reason behind I want to raise my question. So, I want to ask about the security between Indonesia and Europe and to face the rise of China that might be happening one day. We also know ASEAN and Europe had a cooperation and also had summit regarding cooperation in order to strengthen a relation between them. So my question is, what if the rise of China happened one day, and also at the same time they have mastered many fields, including security, economics, and technology, and they will be attacking many countries to get the South China Sea, according to the data and power, they have to protect themselves, and eventually they will ignoring the international law to get the South China Sea in the Indo-Pacific region. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. What's your name?
Okay, sorry for that. My name is Muhammad Nur Faiz Fahmi. You can call me Faiz. I'm from Hasanuddin University, from the Faculty of Social and Political Science in the International Relations Department, batch 2022. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Faiz. Okay, we move to the next question coming from the girl at the center, please.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Makfira Sabrina from the International Relations Department, class of 2022. And then earlier, Mr. Ambassador had mentioned that European Union is attempting to assist Indonesia in boosting trade or economics. But last year, Indonesia lost against the European Union at WTO lawsuit regarding the ban of nickel exports. However, according to our BPS atau Badan Pusat Statistik data on September 2022, the export value of nickel meningkat setelah terjadinya pelarangan ekspor biji nikel ini. And how do you justify stating that European Union will support Indonesia in the economic sector if kalian menggugat negara Indonesia? Terima kasih.
Okay, just to make clear. Oh, okay, all right. So the last question, please. What's your name?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Muhammad Raihan Putralade. I'm from faculty. I'm from social and political science faculty, and I think I'm gonna go straight to the questions. As we know, the European Union has sued Indonesia in 2019 regarding the suspension of nickel export to the European Union, especially nickel using some countries such as Germany, Netherlands, and so on. And my question is, can this incident disturbing the relationship between Indonesia and the European Union, especially in the field of trade? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you for all the questions. Now I give the floor to Mr. Dennis to answer the question.
Thank you. So the first question, the rise of China. So the EU has a very easy to remember motto about relations between Europe and China. So for Europe, China is a economic competitor, a very strong economic competitor. It is a global partner, but it is also a systemic rival. So what does it mean? It's an economic competitor because all around the world it tries to gain market share, sell more Chinese products, and import very important, very critical resources, especially raw material. So especially for this import of raw material and specific goods, China is a very strong economic competitor. And our aim is that we have a minimum of rules in terms of economic competition. Because if we don't have rules, then it's just the strength and the force that matters. And then, you know, the countries that are militarily powerful can put more pressure to get goods and economic results. And this is not good. So we are trying to have rules for economic competition. But we're also trying to have China on board as a partner for global challenges. And you know, the biggest amount of emissions currently, but even accumulated between Europe and China, is China. China emits more dangerous emissions than Europe. And even if you accumulate over history, China is still more important because at the moment it is mainly the factory of the world. So it manufactures so much that in terms of emissions and things. So we need China to do its share of the burden for the climate change, for the fight against climate change. And it's doing well. It is investing a lot in solar, in batteries, in wind. It is very dynamic, and most likely China's consumption of coal and emissions related to coal will peak in the next few years. So this will be very positive for the Earth, but we need to make sure that we keep the orientation and what has been committed to. Then the most difficult one is systemic rival. And there it's something a bit fundamental for also Indonesia. China says that the rules-based order as promoted by the United Nations and in the UN Charter is not correct. China feels that their system, communism, with a very strong leader, only one who can stay there for a long time, is better. So they are saying that the rules that exist now and that allow for countries, sovereign nations to interact, they say that this is obsolete and should be replaced by something that is closer to China's system. And this is where the EU has an issue, and we are trying to solve this not only with China but with lots of countries that are directly impacted by China. Because China, having become so powerful, they clearly want to make sure that they are the master of their sea and all around. But all around you have many countries, and they are all from the ASEAN and Taiwan. So this causes tensions, and we try to send soft messages to China and sometimes harder messages, but it depends very much on the calibration of the countries in the region, including Indonesia, and also what the US will do. With the EU, we are not as confrontational as the US towards China. We have more dialogue, more interaction. We try to find a solution. But it's clear that we are aware of the tensions that are arising, and we are very concerned. So that's on China. On nickel, I think that both questions are very close to each other. You ask why we attacked, and you ask if it's a problem for trade. So, it is very important to make clear that Europeans, the European Union, totally agrees that Indonesia is entitled to a good share, a fair share of the value of nickel, and that the aim of the European Union is not to come here and extract the nickel and take it away and make all the money outside Indonesia. This has to be very clear. It is not at all the aim. One of the biggest French company, Eramet, has come here to Sulawesi to look for a plant that will not only do nickel refinement, because the nickel that is found here is grade 2, so you need an intensive heat process to put it to grade 1, and then it's a precursor, so it becomes an element that you would then export for it to be included in batteries. Here the European company is ready to do an extra step compared to the Chinese companies, which is to do the batteries here with BASF. So, you know, the only European company which is coming here is coming with bringing more value within Indonesia than the other companies. The problem technically is that, as I said, we want to have rules for trade. And in the rules for trade, the international rules to which Indonesia subscribed when it joined the WTO, in those rules it is said that you cannot have export bans. What you can do is you can put the duty on export. So you can say to anyone who want to take the nickel from here and export it to China or Europe, you can say, okay, but you pay 100% duty, the value, so you will get the value. This is legal. This is legal. But to say it's a ban, according to the international rule, it is illegal. And we want to make sure that even if people prefer to keep the raw material inside, there's at least some legal articles that allow for a good cooperation. Because what we want is to find a way for Indonesia to get more products refined here, but we also want to make sure we can export those end products to Europe. So what we are doing, we have proposed a friendly solution to the government, but the government wants to look at it in a wider context. But we are really happy to discuss and open to discuss technical solutions so that Indonesia can keep doing the nickel value chain here, but also make sure that we Europeans have access to some elaborated products.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for the answers. So because we reached the end. Oh, second round. Oh, okay, all right. So we will have how many questions you want to take? Okay, 2 more questions. Please raise your hand. Okay, the guy with the black clothes. You? Yeah. And then the other one is. Okay. Okay. Oh, belum di sini, Prof. Okay, is there any question over there? Any question? On the the student female over there, you with black shirt. Yeah. Okay, please raise your question.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador. I'm Ibnu Alif of Gymnastia, and I'm a third-year international relations student. So I have a big interest in joining your international mobility program by Erasmus. However, when we find the information on the internet, the first application process the recommendation from the university. And unfortunately, we do not have that opportunity in UNHAS yet. So do you have any recommendation for us to get involved in this program? Thank you. The ICM scholarships, the exchange program by Erasmus. Yes, do you have any recommendation for us, the UNHAS student, to get involved in this program? Because we don't have any recommendation by university. So in the past few years, we don't, the international office of UNHAS do not open any application process to this Erasmus program. Thank you.
So yeah, no recommendation. He said, yeah, because in the past few years, there is no kind of certain cooperation in regards of your scholarship. So, do you have any suggestion about that? Okay, the next question, please.
Okay. My name is Deskiana Saru. I'm from International Relations, batch 23. I'm interested about your presentation. One of partnership cooperation agreement is environment and climate change. How does the European Union engage and empower young people, especially we are as a student in implementation of environmental policies to achieve climate change goals? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions. Now I give the floor to Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you. For the Erasmus program, we have a big website, and we have an advisor in the mission, in the EU delegation, who is specialized in that. So if the university authorities or things send us an email, we can have perhaps a Zoom presentation by our Erasmus advisor to the interested students. So perhaps we can arrange that in the future.
So there will be a session sharing. Yeah,
We could do a session.
Okay.
We could organize a session by our expert on the possibilities for that, but we need to contact our experts in the diplomatic mission.
All right. So maybe international office could arrange with that, yeah, with the Erasmus. Okay. Thank you very much,
So we will
Mr.
arrange.
Ambassador.
So empowerment of the youth. So we have different angles for that. The first thing is we have created a youth sounding board in the delegation where what we do, our programs and things, we consult young people on the priorities, on the actions to get their opinion. So we have constituted a youth sounding board. They will come the first time to the delegation, and then they will interact more via WebEx and Zoom because they are from all over Indonesia. But that will be a first thing that we do concretely with a selected young people, but representative of Indonesian youth. Then what we do a lot, and we do a call almost every year or every 2 years, we have general call for civil society organization. So every year, or every 2 years, the European Union selects a relatively big project between 1 and 2 million euro that are given to organizations, civil society organization. But in those programs, there's often a component of a youth. So it can be presentations or trainings or mobilization or events, conferences. But this every year we finance a few organizations. It's not like 1 or 2, it's more 10 or 12. And they have programs that involve the youth on that. Then even this exchange program, you know, it's also an empowerment of the youth for environment, because lots of people now want to study environmental studies, and among the best places in the world to do environmental studies are in Europe. So this is also a third strand that we do. So we do civil society organization, we have the youth sounding board, and then we have our exchange program. So we try to have different angles to involve the youth and environment, but we feel generally that it's more the old people that we have to encourage to change their lifestyle so that it preserves the environment. I think that younger people are more convinced and are keener to do something for the planet. But I'm turning to Shanaz to see if there are other ways to involve the youth. You can.
Could you please turn on the mic?
Yeah. So we encourage you to be very active in relation to climate change. There are several initiatives that the EU promotes. Beach cleanups, for example, it's something that you could also participate. And you know, behavioral aspects that you can put into practice, like consuming recycled products, for example. It's something that we encourage as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador Dennis Chaibi, for well responding all the questions coming from our students. I'm actually, as a moderator, want to have a question, but we have a very limited time. Yeah, with your next agenda. Huh? Okay, so I'm supposed to ask about as today we see there's a war between Israel and also Hamas. Yeah, and it is a very hot contemporary issues of international affairs. And one of the aspect that we could see about the process of boycotting Israeli products, and then the problem, you know, in many countries, not just in Indonesia, is about boycotting Israeli products, which is actually how to say one of the our consideration is that there are many groceries and things that we consume coming from the Israeli products, and maybe there's a polarization regarding the supports of European Union countries as the member of European Union regarding whether to support for Israel and Palestine. So my main question is that what's actually the position of European Union, and how European Union respond the polarization within the supports of its member towards those factions in war. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and I should have mentioned this before, and I'm glad. So really, I know that the perception is not always positive, but I really encourage you to go and check on the website of UNRWA, UNRWA. This is the agency that supports Palestinians. It is the UN agencies that supports the Palestinians since 1948. And if you look at the figures, over time, you will see that the EU, European Union, Union Europa, and all the member states, the 27 member states, and before that UK was in, if you look at the figures, you will see that the EU and the member states have given more money to this agency than the rest of the world combined. I don't need to name others, but if you put this collective, because they will say, oh, this country has given more. Yeah, one country. We are one organization, EU, and each country together. So we have supported the most. We, the EU, are the only ones who are considered both by Israel and by Palestine as a honest broker. The US is considered as pro-Israel by the Palestinians, and others are considered as pro-Palestinians by Israel. We are the ones who can go to both. And that's why we had a big conference in Madrid in '93, where we defined the possibility of a Palestinian state. So we organized the conference that set up the possible Palestinian state. And we have Palestinian representations, diplomatic representations in almost every member state and in Brussels to the EU. So we are the biggest donor. We have supported the principle of establishment of the Palestinian state, and we interact with Palestine. So that's one thing. The other thing, the boycott. So you have to know that at some stage, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, the EU had a big case against Israel because Israel was exporting products that were made by Palestinians in Palestinian territory as Israeli product, and therefore with a lower tax. It was a free trade agreement. I say we are big on trade. So we attacked Israel for that. So we know about the product. But what we realized is that almost no product is made in Israel. You know, almost no products. Israel is a very tiny country. I've worked a lot with Israel and Palestine, so I know the topic. It's a very, very small country, and it's a very high-end. They are very good in cryptocurrency, financial technology, vaccines, medical security, software. Israel is one of the top countries. Manufacturing noodles or skin cream or this, they don't. The list that you see in your social networks, the list that you have on your phone, all these brands, there's nothing made in Israel. Zero products made in Israel. So when you boycott products, you are not hitting Israel. If you think you're going to force companies that are on this list to stop their sales of Israel because you're boycotting the products in Indonesia, it is simply will not happen. It will not happen. There's nothing made in Israel, and the companies, the long list that you have, they are so different. Some make nothing in Israel, don't sell one thing, and some perhaps sell a bit. But you know, Israel is a very small country. A bit more than 5 million customers with purchasing power. It will not change anything. So, you know, the boycott is not the solution. The boycott is not the solution. But the support for Palestine, political support, that is important. That is important.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. So I can say, so the political support, right, is better than boycotting. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for a very fascinating presentation. What I can conclude as a moderator is that we today, the Hasanuddin University academics, get many information regarding what is European Union, about its structures and functions, about its cooperation, current cooperation with Indonesia, and then the prospects for our collaboration together. And then one more important thing is that the potential of our students to go Europe through the Erasmus program for studying there. Erasmus Mundus program. Okay, now I give back to the Master of Ceremony to go to the next agenda. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador Dennis Chaibi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abdul Razak. Ladies and gentlemen, we have had a productive and insightful time together. And before this event comes to the very end, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Gigi Muhammad Ruslin MKes PhD SPBM consultant to present the ceremonial plaque or token of appreciation to His Excellencies Mr. Dennis Chaibi as our thank you for sharing your expertise in this public lecture. To Professor Dr. Gigi Muhammad Ruslin and His Excellencies Mr. Dennis Chaibi, if you may please come forward. Where's the documentation?
Iya. Ada yang dokumentasi. Itu sana kameramen.
Also our product, chocolate.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, chocolate.
For Belgium.
Yeah, chocolate. Better than Belgian chocolate.
No.
Thank you very much.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the very end of our public lecture. To end it, I would leave you with a quote by Stuart Brand, an author and innovative thinker, who once said, "We can see the past but not influence it. We can influence this future but not see it." Let us all be guided by all the things we have learned and heard throughout the public lecture and be able to see and influence our future. That's all from me. Thank you very much, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.